First contact and warning. The quantum detection grid lit up like a constellation of warning lights as the Nexari vessels dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. Inside the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the massive holographic display with steady eyes, her expression unchanged as if she had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. In truth, she had. Multiple signatures detected, High Commander, reported Lieutenant Rodriguez, his fingers dancing across the neural interface. Massive energy readings consistent with our simulations of advanced FTL technology. They're following the exact approach vector we predicted. Maintain silent running, Chen ordered, her voice carrying the weight of 2 decades of preparation. Let them think they're the first ones to spot us. The Nexari invasion fleet emerged fully into normal space, 15 kilometers of sleek biomechanical warships that resembled massive deep-sea predators. Their hull configurations matched none of the theoretical models humanity had developed, but their strategic positioning was textbook military doctrine. The aliens clearly expected no resistance from what they assumed was a primitive civilization. High Marshal Kexri stood on the command deck of the Nexari flagship Eternal Dominion. His 4 secondary eyes focused on different tactical displays, while his primary eye studied the blue-green world that would become the newest addition to the Empire. 3 centuries of expansion had taught the Nexari that resistance was futile. Their technological superiority had crushed countless civilizations that had barely mastered nuclear fusion. Curious, he chittered to his senior tactician. Their orbital infrastructure is limited, yet they've achieved basic spaceflight. Primitive chemical rockets and crude satellites, High Marshal, the tactician reported. No energy shields detected. No quantum signatures. They're barely into their space age. Kexri's facial tentacles rippled in amusement. Send the standard greeting. Let's see how quickly they submit. Throughout human history, first contact scenarios have been imagined countless times, in fiction, in military planning sessions, in scientific conferences, but humanity had done more than imagine. They had prepared. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, inside hollowed-out asteroids, and in secret facilities across Earth, humanity had built an invisible defense network that had remained undetected for over 50 years. The Nexari transmission reached Earth on all frequencies. Greetings, people of Sol 3. We are the Nexari Empire, rulers of 10,000 worlds. Your civilization has been chosen for integration into our endless domain. Submit to our authority, and you shall be elevated. Resist, and you shall be reduced to atoms. You have 1 planetary rotation to respond. In the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Chen opened a secure quantum channel to the United Earth Defense Council. The faces of humanity's leaders appeared on separate screens, representatives from every major nation and coalition. They had trained for this moment since before many of them were born. President Yuki Tanaka of the Earth Union spoke first. The Nexari Empire, just as the Arcturus Protocol predicted. Admiral Chen, are all systems ready? Yes, Madam President. Silent running protocols are in effect. The Nexari remain unaware of our true capabilities. Their fleet positioning suggests they're following standard subjugation protocols. Then we proceed as planned, Tanaka declared, her voice firm. Send the response we prepared. Let's show them why humanity spent the last 50 years preparing for this exact moment. The response that left Earth was transmitted in perfect Nexari language, the result of decades of quantum computing analysis of intercepted alien communications. To the Nexari Empire, humanity acknowledges your greeting. We have a counter-proposal. Leave our solar system immediately. This is not a submission. This is a warning. We have spent generations preparing for this moment. If you proceed with hostile action, we will demonstrate why. On the Eternal Dominion, High Marshal Kexri's tentacles went rigid with shock as the response came through in flawless High Nexari. Impossible, he whispered. Their linguistic database. How could they? But he quickly recovered his composure. In 3 centuries, the Empire had never retreated. He would not be the first to show weakness before a primitive species. "Launch the first wave," he ordered. "Show them the price of defiance." In the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Chen watched the Nexari ships begin their advance. A small smile crossed her face as she opened a channel to all Earth defense stations. "They never learn," she said quietly. "Initiate Operation Silent Guardian." The trap was about to be sprung, and the Nexari Empire was about to learn why humanity's warning should have been heeded. The Silent Defense. The first wave of Nexari fighters streaked toward Earth's orbit, their quantum drives leaving trails of distorted space-time in their wake. High Marshal Kexri watched with satisfaction as 500 of his most advanced attack craft moved in perfect formation. Their sensors showed nothing but primitive satellites and debris, easy targets to clear before the main assault. First wave approaching optimal weapons range, his tactical officer reported. No defensive responses detected. Their orbital infrastructure will be eliminated in approximately 3 minutes. But in the vast darkness between Mars and Jupiter, something stirred. Thousands of microscopic particles, scattered throughout the asteroid belt decades ago, began to activate. Each speck was a quantum-entangled node of Project Firewall, humanity's hidden defense grid. Admiral Chen's voice was calm as she gave the order. "Execute Phase 1. The Nexari fighters never saw what hit them. One moment they were approaching weapons range. The next their quantum drives began to fail. Emergency alerts blared across their cockpits as their advanced technology simply stopped responding. "High Marshal." The tactical officer's voice carried an edge of panic. "We're detecting massive energy signatures. Everywhere. The readings. They're impossible." The space around the Nexari fighters warped and twisted as humanity's quantum disruption field took effect. Decades of studying captured alien tech had taught humanity one crucial weakness. All advanced civilizations relied on quantum mechanics for their most powerful technologies. But humans had discovered something the others hadn't: a way to locally alter quantum probability fields. In the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Chen watched the chaos unfold. Active the gravity lances. Hidden within what appeared to be ordinary asteroids, humanity's gravity lance platforms powered up. These weapons didn't rely on quantum mechanics. They were purely Newtonian nightmares, using rotational mass drivers to accelerate chunks of metal to relativistic speeds. The first salvo turned 50 Nexari fighters into expanding clouds of plasma. The second caught their emergency evasive maneuvers in a carefully predicted grid of intersecting fire lanes. By the third salvo, there was no formation left to target. On the Eternal Dominion, High Marshal Kexri's composure finally broke. "Impossible. Their technology. They couldn't have. We saw no signs." "High Marshal," his science officer interrupted, mandibles clicking rapidly in distress. "We're detecting artificial structures throughout the entire system. They're coming online everywhere. The humans. They've built a defense grid larger than anything in Imperial history." The true scale of humanity's preparation began to reveal itself. What had appeared to be simple rocky asteroids shed their camouflage, revealing massive gun platforms and hangar bays. A cloud of debris near Venus transformed into a swarm of autonomous drone fighters. Even the surface of Mercury rippled as hidden antimatter production facilities emerged from underground bunkers. President Tanaka's voice carried across all frequencies, transmitted in perfect high Nexari. "Perhaps now you understand our warning. For 50 years, we've watched your empire expand. We've studied your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. Every primitive satellite you detected was a deliberate plant. Every piece of outdated technology was carefully positioned. You saw exactly what we wanted you to see." The main Nexari fleet began emergency maneuvers, but they were already caught in humanity's web. Quantum disruption fields continued to expand, creating dead zones where their advanced technology simply refused to function. Without their quantum drives, they were forced to rely on primitive chemical thrusters, exactly the kind of technology humanity had mastered centuries ago. Admiral Chen opened a channel to all Earth defense stations, launched the swarm. From bases on Mars, the asteroid belt, and Earth's moon, tens of thousands of small craft emerged. Unlike the Nexary's quantum-based technology, these fighters used hybrid fusion antimatter drives, crude but devastatingly effective when quantum technology was neutralized. "They've been waiting for us," Kexry whispered, watching the human forces deploy with terrible precision. "All this time, they've been preparing. Not just to fight us, but to destroy us completely." The first shots had been fired, but the real battle was just beginning. The Nexary Empire was about to learn why humanity had spent half a century preparing for this moment, and why their warning should have been taken seriously. Counterstrike. Deep within Titan's underground bases, General Marcus Rivera activated humanity's most closely guarded secret. Initiative Prometheus is now active. He announced to the gathered command staff, "May our ancestors forgive us for what we're about to unleash." The battle for Earth's solar system had reached its critical phase. The Nexary fleet, still reeling from the loss of their advanced quantum technology, attempted to regroup using conventional drives. High Marshal Kexry had ordered his remaining ships into a defensive sphere, a formation that had proven unbreakable in countless previous conquests. But humanity had spent decades preparing for this exact scenario. "They're clustering their ships exactly as predicted," Admiral Chen observed from Lunar Command. "Execute Operation Helios." Throughout the solar system, carefully hidden antimatter production facilities spun up to full capacity. Humanity had discovered early in their space age that quantum technology, while powerful, had a critical weakness: it could be disrupted. Instead of following the same technological path as other species, they had pursued an alternative route, mastering the production and containment of antimatter. From Mercury's dark side, massive electromagnetic accelerators powered up, their capacitors charged with the energy of 1,000 nuclear bombs. These weapons weren't based on quantum mechanics. They were brute force expressions of classical physics, designed specifically to operate in areas where quantum technology failed. Targeting solution complete, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. "Helios platforms are ready to fire." The Nexary crews never saw the attack coming. The first salvo of antimatter torpedoes, accelerated to near-light speed, struck their rear defensive line. The resulting explosions weren't just destructive. They created massive gravity distortions that pulled nearby ships into their blast radius. "Impossible," Kexry's science officers screamed. "Their weapons, they're creating artificial singularities." But humanity's true masterstroke wasn't just their weapons, it was their strategy. As the Nexary fleet struggled to maintain formation, a second threat emerged. From hidden bases throughout the Kuiper Belt, humanity's deep space fleet revealed itself. These ships, powered by fusion drives and protected by layered kinetic barriers, had been waiting in silent running mode for decades. "All ships, execute attack pattern Sierra," Admiral Chen commanded. "Show them why humanity chose to master the old ways instead of relying on quantum shortcuts." The human fleet moved with devastating precision, their tactics reflecting centuries of theoretical space warfare development. While other species had grown dependent on quantum technology for everything from targeting to navigation, humanity had perfected the art of classical space combat. President Tanaka's voice once again echoed across all frequencies. "Your empire grew soft, Nexary. You forgot the fundamental laws of physics in your rush to embrace quantum mechanics. But humanity remembered. We studied your victories, your tactics, your technology, and we prepared countermeasures for everything." The Nexary fleet's formation began to break apart as more antimatter torpedoes struck home. Their remaining quantum-based defensive systems, already struggling against the disruption fields, proved useless against weapons that operated on purely classical physics. "Launch the boarding craft," General Rivera ordered from Titan. "Let's show them what human Marines can do." Specially trained boarding teams, equipped with powered armor that functioned without quantum technology, launched from hidden bases across the solar system. Unlike the Nexary, whose ground forces relied heavily on quantum-based weapons and shields, Human Marines carried railguns, kinetic barriers, and tactical nuclear devices. High Marshal Kexri watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically dismantled. How? He demanded of no one in particular. How could they have predicted everything? The answer came from his tactical officer, who had been analyzing the human attack patterns. Sir, these tactics, they're from our own historical records. The humans, they've been studying our military history. Every move we make, they counter it with a strategy we used centuries ago. It was true. Humanity hadn't just prepared technologically. They had spent decades studying every available piece of information about the Nexari Empire. They had analyzed thousands of years of imperial military history, learning not just how the Nexari fought, but how they thought. As human boarding craft breached the first Nexari capital ships, Admiral Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Send word to our deep space outposts," she ordered. "Begin Phase 4. It's time to show the Empire that we haven't just been defending our solar system. We've been preparing to take the fight to them." The Empire fractures. News of humanity's successful resistance spread through the Nexari Empire like a quantum shockwave. On thousands of subjugated worlds, species that had lived under imperial rule for centuries watched in stunned silence as battlefield recordings leaked through the Empire's supposedly secure networks, another gift from humanity's deep infiltration AI systems. In the imperial capital on Nexar Prime, the High Council gathered in emergency session. The massive chamber, usually a place of ordered ceremony, had descended into chaos. 300 years of uncontested expansion ended by primitives. Supreme Counselor Vexthor raged, his ceremonial robes swirling as he paced. How did our intelligence fail so completely? The answer came from an unexpected source. Council member Zara, representative of the Altarian species, one of the first races conquered by the Nexari, stood to address the chamber. Perhaps we should ask how they succeeded instead. The chamber fell silent. In 3 centuries, no conquered species had dared to speak without permission in the High Council. The humans did what none of us fought to do, Zora continued, her crystalline form pulsing with suppressed emotion. They looked at quantum technology not as a gift to be embraced, but as a potential weakness to be exploited. They saw the pattern of our conquests and chose a different path. Back in Earth's solar system, the battle had entered its final phase. The remaining Nexari ships, cut off from quantum communication and unable to retreat through their disrupted quantum gates, faced a terrible choice: surrender or destruction. High Marshal Kexri, watching from his failing flagship, made his decision. "Open a channel to their command," he ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. "I would speak with the human admiral." Admiral Chen's hologram appeared before him, her expression neutral but alert. Kexri noted how even this communication was being transmitted through classical channels rather than quantum ones. The humans had truly thought of everything. "You have defeated our fleet, Admiral," Kexri acknowledged. "But you must know the Empire will send more. We have resources you cannot imagine." Chen's smile was cold. Resources like the Centaurian antimatter refineries, or perhaps the quantum shipyards in the Arcturus sector. "We've had 50 years to prepare, Marshal. Did you really think we only built defenses in our own system?" The implications hit Kexri like a physical blow. As if confirming his worst fears, new reports began flooding in from across the Empire. Hidden human outposts, disguised as dormant comets or asteroidal debris, were activating throughout Imperial space. Each carried quantum disruption fields and antimatter weapons. But humanity's most devastating weapon wasn't their technology, it was hope. On 100 worlds, ancient resistance movements that had long gone dormant suddenly found new purpose. The Altarians, the Zenthi, the Marins, species that had lived under Nexari rule for generations, saw proof that the Empire wasn't invincible. In the Proxima Centauri system, the first major Imperial shipyard fell not to human forces, but to its own slave workers, the Zenthi laborers, inspired by Earth's example, used their intimate knowledge of quantum technology's weaknesses to disable the facility's defenses. We're receiving transmissions from resistance groups across 16 sectors, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported in Lunar Command. They're asking for our help and offering their own in return. President Tanaka addressed the United Earth Defense Council. This was always a possibility in our simulations, she reminded them. The question before us now is, do we simply defend our own system, or do we help others achieve what we have? The decision didn't take long. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing not just to defend Earth, but to fundamentally change the galaxy's balance of power. From hidden bases throughout human space, a new fleet emerged, ships designed not for battle, but for support and liberation. Send the codes we captured from the Nexari command ships to all resistance groups. Admiral Chen ordered. Show them how to build quantum disruption fields. Teach them what we've learned about alternative technologies. Let's give them the tools to free themselves. The Empire's response was predictable, and exactly what humanity had expected. As Imperial battle fleets converged on rebel systems, they found their quantum technology failing, their communications blocked, their carefully planned strategies falling apart. The humans had shared more than just technology. They had shared their methodology, their way of thinking outside conventional military doctrine. In the High Council chamber, now nearly empty as more representatives rushed to deal with the growing crisis, Councillor Zara watched the reports flood in. The empire that had stood for 1,000 years was facing something entirely new. An enemy that had spent generations preparing not just to fight them, but to dismantle their entire way of waging war. They didn't just want to defend themselves, she realized. They wanted to change everything. A new dawn. 6 months after Earth's first contact with the Nexari Empire, the galaxy had transformed in ways none could have predicted. The massive council chamber on Luna Station bustled with activity as representatives from over 30 formerly subjugated species gathered for the first Galactic Concordat. Admiral Chen, now serving as Earth's military representative, stood at a window overlooking the lunar surface. Construction pods swarmed around massive new structures, joint research facilities where humans and aliens worked together to develop technologies that didn't rely solely on quantum mechanics. Quite a view, isn't it? A familiar voice drew her attention. High Marshal Kexery, now simply Citizen Kexery, approached, his tentacles moving slowly in what Chen had learned was a gesture of contemplation. A year ago, I would have said this was impossible. Different species working together as equals. The Empire spent a millennium trying to prevent exactly this. That was your mistake, Chen replied, turning to face him. You saw cooperation as weakness. We saw it as humanity's greatest strength. The former Marshal had surrendered his fleet 3 months ago, then shocked everyone by requesting political asylum on Earth. He'd spent the time since then helping humanity understand the Empire's weaknesses, not that they needed much help. As it turned out, humans had already identified most of them. In the center of the chamber, President Tanaka was addressing the assembled representatives. The old Empire's greatest fear was that its subjects would unite. Her voice carried across the hall. That fear led them to suppress cooperation between species, to enforce technological dependence, to maintain strict hierarchies. But humanity has always known that true strength comes from diversity, of ideas, of approaches, of technologies. She gestured to the holographic display, showing the status of former imperial space. Nearly 60% of it had already declared independence, using the tools and strategies humanity had shared. The remaining imperial holdouts found themselves increasingly isolated, their once mighty quantum networks disrupted, their supply lines severed. We didn't just prepare for war, Tanaka continued. We prepared for peace. The quantum disruption fields that disabled their weapons. They can be modified to enhance communication networks. The antimatter production facilities. They can power entire worlds. We developed these technologies not just to fight, but to build. In orbit above Earth, the first ships of the new combined defense fleet were taking shape. Unlike the uniform vessels of the Empire, each ship reflected the unique characteristics of its builders. Altarian crystal ships flew alongside human antimatter cruisers and Xenthi bioengineered vessels. Unity through diversity. The principle that humanity had championed was becoming reality. "There's something I never understood," Kexri said quietly to Chen. "You had 50 years to prepare. You could have built weapons capable of destroying the Empire completely. Why show restraint?" Chen smiled. "Because destruction wasn't our goal. Change was. We studied your history, remember? We saw how empires that rule through fear eventually fall to their own weight. We wanted to build something different." The new Galactic Concordat was taking shape. Each member species would maintain its independence while contributing to common defense and sharing technological advances. The humans' quantum disruption fields ensured that no single power could dominate through technological superiority alone. In a secure chamber beneath the conference hall, General Rivera met with representatives from the former Imperial Intelligence Service. They had discovered something shocking. Evidence that the Empire's rigid adherence to quantum technology hadn't been natural evolution, but the result of manipulation by an even older civilization. "There are others out there," Rivera explained to the assembled group. "Species that have moved beyond quantum mechanics entirely. The Empire's stagnation wasn't an accident. It was engineered to keep younger civilizations contained." President Tanaka's voice continued in the main chamber. "Today, we begin something unprecedented. Not an empire built on force, but a confederation built on choice. Not unity through conformity, but strength through diversity." As if to emphasize her words, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. But these weren't warnings. They were detection alerts. At the edge of the solar system, massive energy signatures had appeared. Ships unlike anything seen before, using technologies that defied current understanding. Admiral Chen rushed to the command center, but she wasn't afraid. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for the Nexari. They had learned, adapted, and grown stronger. Whatever these new visitors represented, threat or opportunity, Earth and its allies would face it together. "Send them our standard greeting," Chen ordered with a slight smile. "But add a note. We've been expecting you." In the great dark between the stars, humanity's warning buoys continued their silent vigil, watching for new civilizations, new challenges, new opportunities. Earth had changed the galaxy once. They were ready to do it again if necessary. The age of empires was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And humanity, the species that had spent half a century preparing for one threat only to discover something greater, stood ready to help guide the galaxy into whatever came next. After all, that's what they had been preparing for all along.